Welcome to this deep dive.
Mhm.
And today we're going to be exploring Bitcoin.
Okay.
But we're going to be looking at it through a very particular lens. So we're
Interesting.
going to be looking at it through the lens of fungi.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Using Brandon Quittem's article, Bitcoin is the mycelium of money as our guide.
Yeah, I've read that article. It's a fascinating take.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think it's,
It's not what you expect when you think about Bitcoin.
yeah.
You don't immediately think of like mushrooms and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
So we're going to buckle up and get ready for a very unique perspective
Okay.
on Bitcoin's resilience and growth and potential impact.
Sounds good.
Okay, so before we dive into the nitty-gritty,
Yeah.
let's make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
For those of us who haven't been, recently brushing up on our mycology,
Right.
can you break down what exactly is mycelium
Sure.
and why this comparison to Bitcoin is so fascinating?
So mycelium, you can kind of think of it as like this vast network that's underground connecting trees and plants in a forest.
So like the roots?
It's not the roots, but it works with the roots.
Okay.
It's like the communication network between them.
Ah, okay, interesting.
It's this, some people call it like the natural internet of the fungal world.
Wow.
And the thing about it is that it's decentralized,
Okay.
meaning there's no single point of control,
Okay.
and it's constantly adapting to its environment.
Hmm.
So it's this decentralized nature and adaptability
Yeah,
that makes the comparison to Bitcoin so compelling.
I see. So instead of trees and plants communicating,
Right.
we have individuals and businesses transferring value across the globe
Exactly.
without, banks or governments
Yeah.
calling the shots.
Yeah, there's no like CEO of the forest.
Exactly.
Right. It runs on its own, and that's kind of the idea with Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a really interesting analogy.
And so this decentralized structure also makes Bitcoin incredibly resilient.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it, fungi. They've survived every major extinction event in Earth's history.
Wait, are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
So even the one that wiped out the dinosaurs?
That's right.
That's incredible.
They're the ultimate survivors.
How is that even possible?
Well, for one, they don't need sunlight to survive.
Oh, that's right.
They could adapt quickly to changes,
Mm-hmm.
and they had diverse food sources.
Okay.
So when the world went dark and plants died off, fungi were able to thrive.
Wow. So they just kind of chilled underground
Exactly.
until everything blew over?
Pretty much.
That's wild.
Yeah, and Quittem suggests that Bitcoin shares this same anti-fragility,
Okay.
the ability to not just withstand shocks, but actually get stronger because of them.
So kind of like those attempts to ban Bitcoin or
Yeah,
control it,
exactly.
and it kind of backfires and makes it even stronger.
Yeah, like it almost thrives on that chaos.
Yeah.
A great example is China's crackdown on Bitcoin exchanges back in 2017.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
A lot of people thought that was going to be the end of Bitcoin,
Yeah.
but what it actually did was it led to the flourishing of localbitcoins.com.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a peer-to-peer trading platform,
Okay.
and it became especially popular in China.
Oh, wow. So it just kind of routed around the problem.
Exactly. Bitcoin adapted and thrived,
Hmm.
just like fungi finding new ways to survive.
That's so
It's
interesting.
like
Yeah.
those crackdowns acted as a form of natural selection,
Yeah.
weeding out the weaker elements and leaving only the most resilient behind.
And it's not just surviving government crackdowns.
Right.
Remember all that talk about the internet outages
Oh, yeah.
and how that could disrupt Bitcoin?
Uh-huh.
Well, there's this company, Blockstream.
I've heard of them.
They actually launched satellites to broadcast Bitcoin transactions.
Wow.
So it's like a backup system,
That's amazing.
separate from the regular internet.
So even if the internet goes down,
Yeah.
Bitcoin keeps running.
It's like they're thinking ahead.
Yeah, they're thinking long term. It's like Bitcoin is constantly evolving,
Mhm.
always one step ahead.
Just like fungi have been doing for millions of years.
That brings us to another really fascinating comparison that Quittem makes.
Okay.
He talks about how Bitcoin's evolution is similar to how fungi actually helped life on land get started.
Oh, that's right.
So like 500 million years
It's a
ago,
long time ago.
Earth's land masses were pretty barren,
Yeah, there wasn't much going on.
and plants needed a way to survive
Right.
in this really harsh environment.
Yeah, they needed some help.
And that's where fungi came in.
Interesting.
They formed a partnership with algae.
Algae.
Yeah, the pioneers of photosynthesis.
Right.
So the fungi provided access to nutrients and water,
Okay.
and the algae used sunlight to create energy for both of them.
Oh, like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, like this perfect match made in evolutionary history.
I like that.
So is Quittem saying that like Satoshi,
Bitcoin's creator?
yeah, was like the fungi?
Okay.
in this scenario.
Okay.
And the cypherpunks, those early adopters.
Yeah, we're like the algae.
That's a really interesting way to look at it
Yeah.
because the cypherpunks were all about privacy and cryptography.
Yeah.
And they were really crucial for Bitcoin to gain a foothold.
I see.
So it's kind of like the algae needed the fungi to survive on land.
Right.
Satoshi and the cypherpunks.
Yeah.
This symbiotic relationship between them
Mm-hmm.
helped Bitcoin take root and grow.
Just like fungi helped create the oxygen-rich atmosphere that we breathe today.
Exactly. It's amazing to think about
That's wild.
the long-term impacts.
Yeah, and just like fungi paved the way for complex life.
Right.
Quittem seems to be suggesting that Bitcoin could do the same for a new financial system.
It's a bold statement.
Yeah, a new era for humanity.
He makes a really fascinating analogy to illustrate this point.
Okay.
He talks about the Tenrec.
The Tenra.
Yeah, it's the small mammal
Okay.
that survived the dinosaur extinction by living underground and hibernating.
I see where he's going with this.
Yeah, so just like the Tenrec waiting out the cataclysm and emerging into a new world,
Okay.
Bitcoin could outlast the current financial system
Yeah.
and emerge as the foundation for something truly revolutionary.
That's a really powerful image.
It is.
Makes you think.
Yeah, the resilience of both fungi and Bitcoin is astounding.
Yeah,
It really makes you wonder about their long-term potential.
it does. And that is what we're going to continue to discuss
Okay,
in this deep dive.
that's good.
So we've established that Bitcoin is like mycelium,
Okay.
decentralized,
Right.
resilient, evolving.
Uh-huh.
But how does that translate
Yeah,
into real world impact?
that's a good question.
Why should like the average person listening to this care about any of this?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Quittem argues that Bitcoin acts as like an extended phenotype.
Extended phenotype.
Yeah, it's a bit of a technical term,
Okay.
but let me try to explain it. It's kind of like
Yeah.
how a beaver's dam, extends its capabilities,
Okay, yeah.
allows it to shape its environment.
Right.
Bitcoin, similarly,
Yeah.
extends our ability to cooperate and exchange value globally.
So it's not joyous about money.
No,
It's about changing how we interact with each other
it's deeper than that.
on a fundamental level.
It could enable
Yeah.
more sophisticated forms of collaboration and exchange
Okay.
just by lowering the trust needed for transactions.
Oh.
Imagine a world where you can send value to anyone, anywhere, instantly,
Yeah.
without needing banks or governments.
That sounds pretty utopian.
It does.
But how does Bitcoin actually promote those values of trust and cooperation?
Well,
I mean, isn't the online Bitcoin community sometimes associated with like,
oh yeah,
a less than cooperative attitude?
that's a fair point. Yeah, and Quittem actually addresses that directly.
Okay.
He draws a parallel with our historical relationship with fungi.
With fungi. Okay.
He points out that many cultures have revered mushrooms,
Yeah.
seeing them as sacred.
Even forming cults around them.
Wait, are we talking about Bitcoin cults now?
Haha. No, not exactly.
Okay.
What Quittem's getting at is that this passionate, almost like cult-like following around Bitcoin
Right.
speaks to its potential to disrupt the status quo.
Plus, it's a sign that something big is happening.
It's like those ancient mushroom cults,
Yeah.
a sign that something powerful
Mm-hmm.
and potentially transformative is at play.
Okay.
So this cult-like behavior,
Yeah.
while maybe a bit over the top at times,
Right.
could actually be a sign of Bitcoin's potential
Okay.
to change the world.
But even with that dedicated community,
Yeah,
can Bitcoin really stand up to the immense power
that's the question.
of governments and central banks? I mean,
Mm.
they have armies.
Right.
They have printing presses.
That's where Quittem brings in this concept of the great filter.
The great filter.
It's this theory that suggests that there are obstacles
Mm-hmm.
that civilizations might struggle to overcome.
Potentially leading to their demise.
Wow.
And in the context of cryptocurrencies,
Okay.
he believes that surviving nation-state level attacks
Yeah.
is the great filter.
So governments could try to
Yeah,
crush Bitcoin completely.
they could.
Wow.
And some have tried to a certain extent,
Okay.
but Quittem argues that Bitcoin, unlike previous attempts
Yeah.
at digital currencies,
Mhm.
is uniquely equipped to withstand these attacks.
What makes Bitcoin so different?
Well,
It's still just lines of code, right?
right, but those lines of code create a system
Okay.
that is incredibly difficult to control or censor.
Hmm.
First of all, it's decentralized,
Okay.
meaning there's no central point of failure or
Right.
attack.
Makes sense.
Second,
Okay.
it has a growing network of alternatives to the mainstream internet.
Okay.
like mesh networks and satellites,
Yeah.
making it harder to censor.
Oh, so there's like backups upon backups.
Exactly. It's like
Bro.
this multi-layered defense system. And lastly, and maybe most importantly,
Okay.
it has an energy shield.
An energy shield.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's in the form of proof-of-work mining.
Energy shield sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Uh-huh. It kind of is.
Can you explain that
Yeah.
in a way that even I can understand?
Sure.
Because I'm not a tech person.
So think of it like a puzzle-solving competition.
Okay.
Bitcoin miners,
Yeah.
they're using powerful computers
Oh.
to solve complex math problems.
Right.
The first one, to solve the puzzle,
Yeah.
gets to add the next block to the Bitcoin blockchain
Okay.
and is rewarded with Bitcoin.
Got it.
This process is called proof of work.
So the more miners there are,
Yeah.
the more energy is needed.
Exactly, to alter the Bitcoin ledger.
Okay.
An attacker would need to control a majority
Right.
of the network's computing power.
Which would take a lot of energy.
It would require a tremendous amount of energy,
Ugh.
making it incredibly costly and impractical.
So this energy barrier is like a defense mechanism.
Yes.
It's like those fungi that can survive in extreme conditions. They've evolved defenses
Right.
that make them almost impossible to eliminate.
Bitcoin is constantly evolving, just like fungi,
Yeah.
becoming more resistant to attacks and censorship.
But what about all the other cryptocurrencies out there?
Ah, yes, the altcoins.
Yeah. Are they also potential fungi waiting to take over the world?
Quittem has a really interesting perspective on that.
Yep.
He sees the blockchain industry,
Mhm.
with all its countless altcoins and tokens,
Yeah.
as a sort of red herring,
A distraction.
a distraction from Bitcoin.
Oh, interesting.
So while governments and corporations are
Yeah.
busy trying to understand and
Right.
regulate all this blockchain hype,
Uh.
Bitcoin is quietly growing underground, strengthening its network, attracting new users.
So it's kind of like those flashy mushrooms that pop up after a rain.
Exactly.
They grab all the attention.
Yeah, they're very noticeable.
But the real action is happening below the surface
With the mycelium.
with the mycelium.
Wily working away.
So all this hype around blockchain
Yeah.
might actually be beneficial for Bitcoin.
It could be.
It gives Bitcoin time to mature,
Yeah.
become even more resilient,
Right.
before facing like a full-on confrontation
Yeah.
with the established powers.
It's a fascinating dynamic.
Okay, so let's say, for argument's sake,
Okay.
Bitcoin does survive this great filter
Right.
and becomes the dominant form of money.
Right.
What kind of world does
Mhm.
Quittem envision?
He believes it'll be a world where individuals
Yeah.
have more control over their own financial destinies,
Okay.
free from the manipulation and control
Yeah.
of central banks and governments.
So a world built on sound money,
Yeah.
personal responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
and a decentralized network that promotes cooperation and innovation.
Exactly.
This sounds pretty good.
It does have its appeal,
Yeah.
but Quittem acknowledges that such a transformation wouldn't be without challenges.
What kind of challenges?
Well, in a world without bailouts,
Yeah.
there would be more individual and corporate failures.
Go.
The responsibility for managing one's wealth
Right.
would rest solely on the individual.
It's like Bitcoin embraces the
Yeah,
natural cycle of life and death,
right.
just like in nature.
There's no escaping consequences.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But Quittem argues that this increased skin in the game
Yeah.
would ultimately lead to
Right.
a more robust and efficient economic system.
A system where success is based on
Okay.
genuine value creation rather than cronyism and manipulation.
So it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Short-term volatility and individual responsibility
Right.
for long-term stability and a fairer system.
That's the core of his argument.
And he believes this shift
Yeah,
would extend beyond just economics.
he does.
Okay.
He sees Bitcoin promoting energy independence.
Energy independence.
Yeah.
How?
As miners constantly seek out the cheapest and most sustainable sources of energy,
So Bitcoin could actually drive innovation in renewable energy.
potentially,
Wow.
by creating a constant demand for cheap energy.
Okay.
Bitcoin incentivizes the
Yeah.
development of
Right.
new
Okay.
and more efficient energy sources.
Which could lead to a more sustainable future.
It's a fascinating possibility.
It is.
It is.
But Quittem isn't naive
No.
about the challenges ahead.
He knows it's not going to be easy.
Right.
He acknowledges that there will be pushback
Yeah.
from those who benefit from the current system.
Of course.
There will be attempts to regulate,
Right.
control, even shut down Bitcoin.
But he believes it can withstand these challenges.
He does.
How?
He compares Bitcoin to those ancient mushrooms
Yeah.
that have survived multiple extinction events.
Okay.
It's designed to adapt,
Oh, right.
evolve,
Mhm.
persist,
Yeah.
even in the face of adversity.
So it's like
It's this incredible story of resilience and adaptation.
yeah, it's like the ultimate underdog story.
You could say that.
I mean, who doesn't love an underdog story? Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here with all this fungi talk.
We have.
Um, are you saying that we should all become Bitcoin maximalists now?
Uh-huh.
Start mining Bitcoin in our basements and, like, ditch all of our bank accounts?
No, not necessarily. I think it's important to remember that Quittem
Yeah.
is offering one perspective on this.
Right.
And, this isn't financial advice.
Of course.
And there are definitely other viewpoints out there.
Right.
But I think it does raise some really thought-provoking questions about the future of money and the potential for a more decentralized world.
It really does make you think about things differently.
It does.
Absolutely. And whether you love Bitcoin or hate it,
Yeah.
it's a force to be reckoned with.
It's not going away.
Yeah, it's not going away.
It's making us rethink a lot of our assumptions about how the world works.
It's like that old saying,
Yes.
the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones.
Right.
Maybe the fiat age won't end because we run out of paper money,
Maybe.
but because something better comes along.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy.
Quittem's article gives us a new way to kind of understand this whole phenomenon.
It's a fresh perspective.
Yeah, and he's really encouraging us to
To
see
think outside the box.
yeah, to see these connections
Yeah.
between these seemingly unrelated things like fungi and finance.
Right. Who would have thought?
And to think about the long-term consequences.
The big picture.
Yeah, of the choices that we're making today.
It's not just about today, it's about tomorrow.
Exactly.
And the next day.
And sometimes those most revolutionary ideas come from the most unexpected places.
It's true.
Just like those humble fungi transforming the earth.
Millions of years ago.
Millions of years ago.
It's amazing.
Bitcoin could be a catalyst
Yeah.
for change shaping the future.
In ways we can't even imagine.
In ways we can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's like we're at the beginning of something new.
Exactly. And so for everyone listening out there,
Yeah.
maybe this deep dive has sparked your curiosity.
Oh, wow.
Maybe you're still skeptical.
That's okay.
Or maybe you're ready to dive head first
Down the rabbit hole.
into the world of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But wherever you stand, I hope this episode has given you something to think about.
It's all about asking questions
It is.
and exploring new ideas.
And as Quittem asks at the end of his article, if Bitcoin is indeed this revolutionary,
Yeah.
what role will you play in its story?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is a question worth pondering.
It is.
It really is.
A lot to think about.
And with that, we will leave you
Okay.
to continue exploring.
Keep learning.
Until next time,
Yeah.
keep diving deep.